I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet here with the dude and Golan. Fantastic shirt, Golan. Counting Crows. Brilliant album. Brilliant band. Got to get Adam Duritz on here one of these days.
Man, agreed. I have now seen them twice in just the last couple of months here in Barcelona. And a nice Jewish boy, Adam Duritz, kicking ass on stage, man. Still just as good as he ever was.
Man, you're online and on X and on all these things. Alex-Jones issues dire warning to Netanyahu and Israel first Mossad agents, triggering a worldwide conflict of civilizations will destroy humanity. You will not get out of it alive. I bet Levin is a colonel in the Israeli military. If anybody's listening to him, you're out of your damn mind. Okay? Love Mark Levin. If anybody has an image of Mark Levin in an Israeli uniform or an American uniform, I love the guy, but I cannot imagine him wearing a uniform. And then he's interviewing Max Blumenthal, one of the biggest leftist jackasses in the United States, if not the world.
It doesn't get more woke and left than Max Blumenthal. It's kind of like Tucker having, I don't know, which lefties, all the crazy lefties he's had recently, but you're seeing that horseshoe theory where the crazies from the left, the crazies from the right wind up at the same conclusions. It's because they're crazy.
Mark Levin is a colonel in the Israeli army. How do you even, I mean, if you listen to somebody after saying that and you see a picture of Mark, God bless Mark, if you saw a picture of me, yeah, same thing. Man, it's insane.
Yeah, and he's going with Mark Levin being a general. He's not fit.
And
he's
you
not
say
a
that with
guy.
love. We really do adore the guy.
Well, we love the guy. I mean,
it's just such a ridiculous assertion. And I love, though, that it's just, all right, let's see how we can put these pieces together. All right. Jewish guy? Yeah, all right. Jew military. It's like Megyn Kelly on stage at TPUSA. Epstein Mossad. Yeah, okay, there we go. It's like playing Mad Libs as long as you're anti-Semitic. It's amazing.
But you know the bigger point is, guys, we all knew that even when the war ended, like our wish was that this would stop. Right, that this anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, anti-Christian stuff would stop in the podsphere. But listen, when that's your bread and butter, go on. You got to continue because that's what still gets the clicks.
No question. This is the same thing we talk about over and over again. Where, as we've discussed at length, and I'll repeat just a short version of, when you see that some of the lunatic fringe, like the what's his name, Nick Fuentes, is just spouting Nazi propaganda, and he's getting a following. He's getting on Tucker Carlson, all this stuff. You're like, oh, wait a minute. I want to get on Tucker Carlson. Or if you're Dave Smith, for instance, I want to get on Joe Rogan. Okay, so what are they doing? Well, anti-Israel.
That's a great point. We should make a form for how to get on Rogan. That's like what they're all doing right now. It's like, that would be a great post of like, ways to get on Joe Rogan's show or Tucker Carlson's show. You have to say this.
There's a checklist.
Yeah, there's a checklist.
Yeah. And if you go down
Jackson Hinkle was on Tucker's podcast. I mean, that guy literally will take anybody.
He's converted to Islam, just for the record. He lives over there. But what's really interesting is somebody said to me, and this is a huge issue that we're facing, is somebody said to me, he didn't say that, right? And I said to them, I put what he said in quotes. So here's the thing. It's okay if you want to agree with everything Tucker says or anybody says. Nobody's going to say anything. Just openly admit that, man. Don't come out and say he didn't say that or they didn't say that. There's Megyn Kelly on video having young trans people on stage. Don't say that she didn't say that, or it was 2017. Don't say she didn't say certain things, it was 2021. Just openly admit you don't care what they said because they're in line with how you believe.
Yeah, I saw that video of Megyn Kelly coming out in defense of transitioners that were in their teens, talking kids. And she still says today, she just said the other day or yesterday, that Jeffrey Epstein, she goes, my friend who's an expert who knows everything says that Jeffrey Epstein is not a pedophile. Huh. He just likes barely legal.
Okay, by the way, can I just say something? When I heard that term, for people that are not, there are going to be a lot of people that are not familiar with this term, okay? There's a term that porn sites I heard this from somebody, tend to use this word barely legal. Well, all the formidable or all the legal porn sites, they're all legal. They're not barely legal doesn't refer to you're 15 men and you're almost 18. Barely legal in the porn
I love that
world.
this is the defense. To me, honestly, how many times have I said this on the show? I can't believe we're having this conversation. I can't believe this is what we're talking about. Is barely legal okay? Barely legal is legal, but Epstein was not. Was just on the other side of barely illegal.
So hold on a second. What was he convicted of?
That's exactly.
What is she talking about? The guy was convicted of sex crimes against children, right? That's what he was convicted of?
Yes.
Yeah. So what is she talking about? And the fact that
I think she's talking
that,
about her friend who likes barely legal videos and doesn't understand what barely means.
Yeah, it's insane that we're here. She's like, even if the legal age of consent, let's say, was 16 in Florida, which I don't know what it is, and this guy was coercing 16-year-olds by bribing them to come to his island, his house, and giving them massages, and then he would assault them or whatever. How would you defend that? Even if it was the legal age of consent, a 50-something-year-old man with these barely legal, and I don't think they were barely legal.
By the way, he was, just so you know, he was convicted for soliciting prostitution and soliciting prostitution from a minor. Just
from a minor. So there you go. There it is.
It was
from a minor. That is pedophilia. Minors are, if you're into minors, you're a pedophile.
I'm going to pretend that I'm Megyn Kelly from Melbourne. I'm going to totally justify her, what she said. Maybe she meant that men who watch pornography and like barely legal stuff recognize that the girls are legal, but like that they look young. And Epstein thought these girls were legal but looked young, and then oopsie, they turned out to be minors. Okay, maybe that's what she meant. Although once a pattern is established and we have people literally saying he was asking for people that were underage and all of that, she's a lawyer. Again, I'm pointing this out because I want to point out she's a lawyer. So once you have facts and evidence, you don't have to speculate anymore, because what I just tried to defend her with was a speculation. But there are facts and evidence that show that speculation is inaccurate. So why would she even bring it up at this stage? What is she trying to accomplish?
She didn't come out and say, just for the record or factual, she didn't say, it's not a quote, Megyn Kelly says this. It's such a bizarre thing to say that she knows somebody who says this is what he's into. And I felt so bad for, what's her name, Batya Sank Younger, whoever that was on the show with her. However,
not Shanky.
No, Batya. Oh my God, now I forgot her name.
And me too now, but now I can't get out of my head this hybrid creature, Batya Shanky.
And that wasn't
Unger Sorgan.
Okay, I wasn't that far off, okay?
Yeah, that is so funny.
I wasn't that far off. I felt so bad for her because she's on the show going, what the hell do I say? Like, this is a big moment.
It was Mike Myers standing next to Kanye West. It was amazing to watch,
yeah,
actually.
But again, if you want to just be part of a cult, that's cool with me. But don't tell me that a person did not say what they actually said. That's my beef. You know, Jews used to not allowed to be in clubs. Blacks weren't allowed in clubs. I don't have a problem with that. If there's an establishment that doesn't want blacks or Jews, I'm okay with that. Say it. I'd rather go somewhere, go on where they say no blacks or Jews, and I walk in and it's like, well, we really didn't mean you should come here. You know, for the tax break, so you could build your, like the Jonathan Club in Santa Monica, so you could build your parking lot. They had to take Jews. You know, I don't mind that. Just be honest.
It's very funny. I understand. You're saying, as a Jew, you wouldn't mind if someone said, no Jews allowed in this club. You're like, all right, I know where I'm not going to go. For me, this is a similar thing to if I was like a gay person and I wanted a cake baked for my party, I wouldn't deliberately go to the baker who doesn't want to bake a cake for my party. There's certain people who you don't have to do business with. There's certain places you don't have to go. You don't like it, go build your own club. So yeah, I happen to agree with you. I don't need anyone to do me any favors and begrudgingly let me into any place. But back to this, I have to come back to the Megyn Kelly thing, because it's not just her. right? There's a whole fleet of people now, some of them like the Alex Jones that are just wildly off the reservation, and some of them like the Megyn Kellys who are, I think, trying to say things to appeal to a certain demographic, to be like, it's kind of like the fellow kids, I'm cool like you moment, questioning whether he's a pedophile. That's not the question that's being asked. That's not the question that anybody, even though the obsessives who can't stop talking about Epstein, even they are not saying, but was he really a bad guy? That's not the question being asked. So for her to do that means she's trying to accomplish something. She's trying to appeal to a group. She's trying to get a certain group to follow her. Again, I don't believe Megyn Kelly is a paid operative. I believe she is someone but I believe she loves getting paid when it's clicks and likes and followers and retweets and all of that stuff. And this is a way to do that. How can I go viral even now? And it just lays bare the hypocrisy of what the media has become, and the people that we are meant to get our news from, or the people that we once got our news from, how none of them can be trusted anymore on either side.
Well said, man. Final thoughts. By the way, listen, I really want you to start doing the show without your shirt on. It would help with our YouTube and our Rumble, where I heavily
It'll help my
encourage
OnlyFans
people.
page.
Okay,
That's right.
you could start your OnlyFans page here. It'll be part of the show. It would be a great help. I mean, anyways, get back to it, man.
All right, so I don't think Megyn Kelly is bought by Qatar, and I say this because I'm
Agreed.
just looking at, I'm
Yeah, we agree.
looking at her history, the trajectory that she's been going, and she, as Golan said, she's just following the clicks. When she was on NBC, I think it was, she was all for the trans kids. Then she was on Fox, and then it was all
Good point.
something else, right?
This extends
So
further
she's just
back than I thought. That's a really good point.
She's a chameleon, and she's, testing the wind. Which way is it blowing? Let me go in that direction. And she thinks this internal war between Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Tucker, and Candace, she thinks the Tucker side is going to be the winning side. So she's just aligning herself with that side. Clearly, dishonestly aligning herself with that side.
That's a
Calling Ben
brilliant
Shapiro
point.
a liar, right? All that stuff. It's complete dishonesty. You see it online. You see the posts that Candace made about Erica Kirk, clearly implicating Erica in Charlie's murder. And here's Megyn running cover for Candace and demonizing and vilifying both Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro. So, okay.
And same thing when just the other day she said, I have video in which Charlie Kirk said, go Max, which proves that, and then she said a bunch of stuff it doesn't prove. These are, again, she knows better.
I found
her doing that is just crassly.
Doesn't prove anything. Go Max doesn't mean anything. It wasn't, and that's what I said. Was it go Max on BLM? Was it go Max on space travel? Was it go Max on being pro-Israel? Like, what are you talking about? Go Max. What does that mean?
Or go Max when you go on stage, which is, if you think about, if you're about to go on stage and I'm like, hey, go kick ass out there, bro.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean go kick ass and talk about Epstein and Israel is at fault. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
it's spineless echo chamber in human form.
Yeah. So I think it's time to if anyone listens to her show or follows her, it's time to just leave it in the comments, let her know that you're gone and be gone.
You know what it comes down to? It's one big, I think one of you said it yesterday, or you might have said it. It's one big mass case of confirmation bias. Now you're noticing a lot of people getting tired of the Epstein thing, right? You're witnessing a lot of people on the right say, this is not, there's no there. This is just ridiculous because it's not getting the clicks and the likes and nobody's buying it anymore. There's only so many pages of documents they could release, and you'd have to be the biggest idiot in the world to think they actually had something on Trump at this point.
It's interesting. Okay, so for those listeners who don't know what confirmation bias is, right now we're witnessing truly like a full-blown epidemic of this particular thing, and it's like a group of people who would rather choke on their own narrative than swallow a single inconvenient fact. So what is confirmation bias? It's when you don't ask what's true. It's when you ask what fits the story we've already decided to tell, right? And that means if a fact walks into the room that negates the story you're trying to tell, God forbid, you tackle that thing at the door and you kill it in real time, because you cannot change the narrative. And it's not the narrative being handed down by Big Brother. It's the narrative that you are trying to, for whatever reason, whether it's ideological, whether it's financial, whether it's to get clicks, it's something you've decided. This is the story I need to pursue because this is going to get me the most whatever. And then you just pursue it doggedly, regardless of truth, regardless of reality. That's confirmation bias. You can see it glaringly all over the place right now.
Well said. And I want to move on.
She's annoying to listen to. Just one last thing.
No. I could go on it all day. I figured you'd
He
want
just
to move
comes across as this like almost know-it-all motherly type that is just, I find it just so annoying to listen to.
But she,
Her
by the way,
voice-
she didn't used to sound that way. She's become this matronly. I'm going to tell you a story about when I went to a party and Mary
Right.
Lou Henner gave me a hand job. Like
It's like
these,
she's talking
these-
to her little kids.
exactly.
It's infuriating.
But she
But you
didn't
know
used
why?
to speak that way.
because these people that listen to her have the brains of little children.
And I'm not trying to make fun of her looks or anything, but she does look like she's got Ozempic face. Like
I was
her
about to say that
face
too.
is just getting longer, like Celine Dion, a long face. Why the long face, Megyn?
That's actually, you know what? That's the
That may
title.
be our title.
That is the title. Perfect. I'm happy we did not end it there, but I want to move on to something really serious because judges are destroying our country. Judges are making our country extremely unsafe. This is I brought up yesterday the 600 in Chicago, the 600 illegal immigrants that ICE pulled in, that the judge released or forcing them to release. Now there's a federal court judge that's blocking Trump's administration's rule limiting commercial driver's license for illegal immigrants. So this is great. He's basically says there's only 0.2% of them are in the accidents. So you have a judge right now that is putting weapons on the road of people that don't speak the language, should not be driving trucks, probably not be driving, or you know what, should not be in this country. Okay. Let's go to step one, men. People that should not be in this country, and this judge reverses that. These judges have blood on their hands over and over and over again. The judge that released the guy in South Carolina that killed the Ukrainian girl was 16. This is the amount of blood judges have on their hands, and this is what people should be talking about. This is what the pod sphere should be talking about. This is what the conservative movement should be talking about and focusing on, men, as we have the House and the Senate. Getting rid of judges like this.
You know, when I hear about these cases and I see some of these people, some of them I know online, and they're getting all bent out of shape about anything to do with this administration's policies, the first thing I do is I want to know where they stood on the previous administration's policies. If they are solely focused on this administration's policies, but gave the previous administration a complete pass, I tune them out. I don't care what they have to say. You're a biased, non-honest broker when it comes to this stuff. So if you talk about the one U.S. citizen who got picked up by ICE and got held for 2 days, and then they realized that he is a U.S. citizen, and then they let him out, but you're not talking about all the illegals that came here and raped and killed and maimed and did all the horrible stuff they've been doing. I mean, we talked about 150 pedophiles that were rounded up in an ICE raid in Florida yesterday. There's so many things that are getting fixed, that are doing that is correct, that if you get it wrong a couple of times, that's why we have a justice system. These people, it's meant, we're not sending people to the execution chamber overnight. They get detained, then they figure out who they are, and 99.9% of the cases, they are illegal aliens, and a lot of the time, they are criminals that have violent pasts, and they're getting deported. That is the way it's supposed to work. Anytime the cops arrest people, sometimes they arrest the wrong person. In any scenario, you could have a shootout in a house and they'll arrest a few people. Then they cut a few people loose. We even saw that when Charlie Kirk got killed. I mean, that wasn't as good an example because the guy was yelling, I did it.
And he
But
got
they do that.
rearrested.
What's that?
And he got rearrested for
Well,
sex.
he's a pedophile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or sex crimes. Let's say sex crimes because I'm not sure it was pedophilia, but it probably was.
I think it was all pedophilia. It was all
Megyn
freaking
Kelly's
pedophiles.
friend
They always are.
says
Every
it
single
wasn't,
time they
Well,
come out.
Right,
they're
but you know why?
pedophiles.
You know why? You know how you know? Because if you're doing online stuff when it comes to women, and I'm saying, or when it comes to if you're your fetish is online and you get arrested for it, there's nothing illegal if the person's above 18. So there you are.
Yeah.
That's right. Barely legal. Full circle.
Well, there's that.
I just want to point out, by the way, for all of you who are wondering what policy we're talking about, Judah mentioned the licenses being handed out. The thing about it is this law wasn't overturned because of some constitutional reasoning or anything like that. This law was actually overturned because of a technicality. I want to make sure this is clear because it makes it worse, because it means that judges are consistently looking for whatever tiny little loophole they can find in order to negate policies coming out of this administration. This technicality here was about how the Department of Transportation, basically how they went through the process of making this rule, this new law, this interim law that they were saying we're blocking certain people from getting licenses. I don't have all the details about it, but as Judah pointed out, it was 5% of these licenses that were given to illegal immigrants, but they were involving 0.2% of the fatal crashes. So they said, well, according to the way you've written the law, DOT, Department of Transportation, the way you've written it makes it sound like they're involved in the majority of crashes. Now, it's a loophole because it's not actually about whether it's a good idea or not. Even the judge had to admit, yeah, these people shouldn't have licenses. But it's a process error in terms of how the law was written, not a substantive merit of the policy or anything like that. And that's why the court blocked it. It's something the court also could have opted not to block, because the way they phrased it in the proceeding was that the DOT did not articulate a satisfactory explanation as to why, despite it being a solid law. And they said, so, and therefore we're going to basically what Judah said, put weapons back on the street. That's really what this is. So when you're talking about the paperwork isn't perfect, so the policy dies, but even though the policy was sound, that means that they are basically saying, despite the Trump administration doing something that actually increases the safety of the citizens, we're still going to block it, which is pure lawfare. I want to make sure that's clear to everybody because this is how they do it. It's death by 1,000 cuts on technicalities, not because there's actual constitutional issues. It's a major difference.
Well said, and that's why you are the professor. Mend, apparently there are 180,000 dead Americans that eat very well.
Yeah, I saw that. It's great. They're getting SNAP benefits. Who's cashing those checks?
Yeah,
I saw that they're going to make everybody reapply for SNAP. If you want food stamps and food stamps of all of our social programs. So there's a couple of things here. Food stamps, when it comes to food stamps, and you talk about the social programs we have, it's one of the most important ones. There are families that actually cannot get by
100%.
without it. So it's a really important program. I think it's broken. It's obviously broken. I saw there's a whole thing online where these girls were talking about when it got cut, they were talking about how much they were selling their food stamps cards for. So a $2,000 food stamp card goes for about $1,200 on the open market. So you could just buy it. They're selling it and they're using that money to buy Gucci. Great. Oh, fantastic. Make them all reapply again. I think another thing, I mean, we were fighting over this years ago, whether or not you could use your food stamp card to buy cigarettes, to buy soda and potato chips. I mean, and let me just tell you something. There was a bodega down the street from me. No matter what the program's rules said, you could buy anything on SNAP. I was in there all the time. We were always buying candy from that place. They even gave us credit on the weekend. It was fantastic. A bunch of Arab guys that ran this little bodega. But it was an open secret. You could get anything you want if you had, EBT, food stamps, whatever it was. So the government should, let's steal a page from Mendomni, the government should open up government-run stores for food stamp people. If you're on food stamps, you should be able to go to the government-run store, and in that store is only healthy food. You're hungry. You want the good food for your family. Everybody always complains that healthy food is more expensive. Just walk into Whole Foods, or as my mom used to call it, Whole Paycheck. You walk in there.
I think more people than your mom just called it that, but that's just something.
All right. Yeah, I'm not in the know.
But your mom was a saint. So let's give credit to her.
So, the policing of the food stamp card, if it was exclusive to a government-run Costco type thing, where there was just, and the government doesn't have to actually run it. They just farm it out. And it's basically a law that says, when we lived in Canada, all the alcohol was sold through the Alcohol and Tobacco LBC or something. There was some liquor and tobacco council. You had to go to a government-run store to buy that stuff. It sucked. They're closed on certain days. They don't give a crap. It's not well run. Fine. You put up with it. The prices are all very high. You put up with it. But that's how the food stamp program should be working here. SNAP should be working where it goes through some sort of government-run store, maybe attached to a DMV. You just open up a little bodega on every single DMV out there, and everybody has access to it.
I'll tell you this. So you guys might not know this about me, but there was a time when I was on SNAP. I was on EBT cards. I was on. I was getting money from the government for food, and there was a time I was trying to make it in Hollywood. It was very difficult. I was sleeping in my car, like I was sacrificing whatever I could to do it. I didn't have money, and so I only did it for a short time. I was able to get a job teaching shortly thereafter, and I was able to get off of it. And I will just say on a personal note that it was really a point of pride for me to work hard to find a job, to be able to not take that money. At the time, I didn't realize how many people were desperately avoiding work in order to stay on the program, that just feels like such a foreign concept to me, so alien to me. But that's not what I wanted to say. Is when I was on SNAP, I will never forget, I was in California, I will never forget the first week I was on this, when they gave me that card. I still have the actual card as a memory, like to remember that moment. But SNAP was literally created so people could buy food, like actual nutrition, basic sustenance, stuff that keeps human beings alive. That was the point, right? To take care of people and make sure that they didn't die as a result. Non-food items, junk, luxury bullshit, all of that. That's not what the program was designed for. And every time that I would talk about this with someone, especially after having been on the program, people pointed at me like I was the bad guy for pointing that out. Like, it's so disrespectful to those people. I was like, no, there's a reason this exists. But when I was on SNAP, I ate healthy. I bought real food. It was something that I thought I was supposed to do. It made sense to me. I knew there was a certain amount of money on the card. So I ate whole foods. I bought produce and meat and eggs and like healthy staples, stuff that you would have to actually cook yourself, create yourself, not processed shit. And here's the truth of it. When you do it that way, when you're actually buying whole foods, vegetables, etc., food is actually really cheap, even when you're buying, even in some cases, organic. And the whole foods style places, still, you could get whole chicken, you could get frozen veggies.
You're 100% right. I mean, like, just
wait, but I just want to say this. I literally could not spend all the money on my SNAP.
Listen, but you're 100% right. When you think about the price of soda and the things, listen, I drink a lot of soda. Yeah, I'm not judging people that drink soda, but if those are the things you're going to get, you're going to go through your money a lot quicker. You're 100% right. You can go to the grocery store, most grocery stores, the vegetables and all that stuff tend to not be. I haven't seen the inflation as bad on vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. Listen,
Absolutely.
cherries are always insane, the cost of cherries. But, which brings us back to the economy and tariffs and men's favorite thing, which is, because I want to start calling him the dude tariff man, because there's a new study out. The FED study vindicates Trump trade policy. 150 years of evidence shows tariffs lower inflation. This was done by a group out of San Francisco Bank. So, Mend, there you are.
Yeah, I saw that same report. And, when you see these people talking about tariffs, or you see people talking about, I was listening to them talk about the apology that the BBC was giving to Trump. They find the most ridiculous economist in the hills. He'll come up and say, tariffs are a tax on the people, and the companies, they just pass along the expense to the American taxpayer. Not true. Not true. There are things that I would buy at a certain price point, and if the price goes up, I will not buy it. And a lot of companies know that. So what they do is they eat the cost. They make it eat into their profits a little bit. They've been making a lot of money hand over fist. They're going to make a little bit less money, but they're still going to make a ton. So these people that come out and say, it's a tax on the American. No, it's not. You don't know what you're talking about. Paul Krugman has been found to be wrong so many times that I don't know how anyone still calls him
But
an
he's never
economist.
right. He's never right. And Ben has had debates. Ben Stein's had debates with him, and it's not a debate.
But that's the thing, is that the
I mean, it's like
guy who
just a
wrote the book.
beating at a
Remember the guy
certain
who wrote
point.
the book From Beirut to Jerusalem? I read that book. It was a good book. Thomas Friedman. He's become so irrelevant because he's wrong on every
he
single
always
topic.
was. He always. I mean, I'll give you
Yet
just,
the New York
honestly-
Times still.
just a brief summary about Thomas Friedman. Thomas
Yeah.
Friedman's always been a progressive Jewish nut job for the New York Times, author.
I read that book a long time ago.
And the one time he came out and decided to embrace like Republican policy was the Iraq War. So, and I'm not judging anybody on their critique or they were for the Iraq War.
The point is, these guys are wrong consistently, and yet they're the experts. So when you come out and tell me that there's a report that says that tariffs actually help the economy and decrease inflation, whatever it is, well, like you told me yesterday when I told you that there was a report done about the bias in the media, and you're like, duh, you need a report for that. I'll say the same thing. Duh.
No, this is
great.
This is a little different. This isn't a duh on that. And go on. It was actually the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco that did this examination.
Look, bottom line though, generally speaking, is according to this study, is that I don't really know another way to say it. Trump is really vindicated when it comes to this. Trump has been, as we've spoken about before, championing tariffs long before he implemented this policy, before he became president. He has been consistent. He's a guy who just loves the idea of tariffs. So, okay, we can disagree with implementation. We can disagree with how certain things are done haphazardly. We can disagree. But generally speaking, at least from what we've seen, he's doing it with purpose. He does something that seems haphazard, except there's something behind it that maybe we haven't taken into consideration. So far, as a strategist, Trump has been really masterful. Even people who dislike Trump have to admit, like, that was a really bold move. Whether that means I'm going to say something that's so outsized so that you are required to now come up with something in the middle as a compromise, or like he's done a number of times, or whether it's something like this, where it's every single person told me I shouldn't do it, but I have something in my head and I'm going to try it. And we're watching other countries now capitulate. We're watching other countries come to the table that might not have otherwise. This is the study that basically says the big thing that you have been told to be afraid of, runaway inflation, price spiking, trade collapsing, as men pointed out, all the money that now is going to go up, is you're going to pay for it, consumer, and all of that. This is the thing that says, guess what? You're not paying in prices, and you're flat out, the critics here were flat out wrong. So I think at a certain point, you have to look at studies like this and say, if we are to trust the studies, and feel free to scrutinize it till the cows come home, because this wasn't a study that was meant to put Trump on a pedestal. They even talk in some cases about how unemployment could be affected. Like, they give you some counterpoints too. And yet it still unequivocally says Trump was right.
So I want to ask you, well said, and I want to ask you a question because somebody sent me a great clip from Patrick Bet-David's show today about somebody, I don't know who it was, talking about Islam and really explaining Islam in about 15 minutes. And he brought up Robert Spencer, and Patrick Bet-David said, at Robert Spencer, there's a lot of, what is the issue with Robert Spencer? Because he came out and he said, I know he wrote in a UN report shows Palestinians fatter than Israelis, but I'm not exactly sure. Is there something? Is there something to Robert Spencer that I should be made aware of?
Robert Spencer, in terms of what? In terms of
Like
controversy
or
something like that? I haven't really thought of him as someone who's on the fringe. Is that something that we should be aware of?
No, it was just brought up on the Patrick.
He founded maybe the fact that he's pretty anti-Islamist, and so he's coming from a specific perspective. I mean, this is the same guy, Robert Spencer, right, who founded Jihad Watch, right? He co-founded the Stop Islamization of America. These organizations are speaking from a certain perspective, and that perspective is Islamism bad. If you let Islamism take over America, bad idea. So I suppose, is it, oh, he's already anti-Islamist from the beginning and therefore a biased source? I really don't know. Men, do you know anything about the controversy besides
I don't know.
accusations of Islamophobia nonsense?
No, I saw some of the
Well, that's
Patrick
why
Bet
I'm
David.
asking, and because these are questions other people would ask. So I'm curious to know what exactly it is. So I'm guessing it's because he started jihad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like we know that every time. What was just now? I know, men, you don't like the ADL, but how about this as a great example? The ADL put out something saying we're going to watch Mamdani's policies and see which of them are rooted in anti-Israel or anti-Jewish hate. And Mamdani's camp responded by saying, "This is Islamophobic." So if this is our benchmark of, hey, he's a controversial figure because he's Islamophobic, count me up. I'm a controversial figure.
Me
And I
too.
think all of us are.
Well, me too. I just wanted to ask. I figured if anybody would know, it was you guys. So that's why I asked. And these are questions people would ask me. Listen, there are people oftentimes on social media will ask me a question. I'll have to look it up. It's not like I don't know everything.
Let me just jump in here for a second with the Mamdani response. Islamophobia is a made up word, completely made up. There's no such thing. So I
Agreed.
love it that that's what they came back with. I would say, what? What are you talking about? We don't understand what that word means.
I want to bring up something though, even though deeper and darker and more nefarious, that it won't stop. It's this with the like with the assassination stuff and all this stuff, and Tucker coming out today supposedly and proving that the FBI is lying about Thomas Crook, the shooter and Butler. And I'm not sure people realize how hard it is for a conspiracy. Have the government done things? 100%. Have we found out a good majority of them? 100%. Does it take 2 years? Does it take 20 years? Does it take 50 years? Sometimes. Yeah, I always used to say this with Bush. Either he was the dumbest president we've ever had, or he was the most brilliant minded president, or the people behind him were so brilliant. It's like, which one is it? Are they dumb or are they stupid? Pick which one it is. Because you're talking about people that can't keep their mouths shut. Are people going to just do anything to get clickbait? I guess they will. I mean, I guess that's a stupid question.
The problem is today is that people, and I'm seeing this from people that I know that are well intentioned, and someone told me that they're tuning into Candace because she's doing this like true crime mystery, getting to the bottom of who killed Charlie. And I said, you're not going to find out anything from Candace Owens about who killed Charlie. That woman has no clue what she's talking about. How do you not know this? How do you not know it when you're listening to that lunatic ramble on about all kinds of retarded conspiracies that she has no idea what she's talking about? She has left the reservation. The fact that she's completely changed her tune in recent years to become a rabid anti-Semite should tell you everything you need to know. You should be able to tune out. Yet I know a lot of well-intentioned, good people that still tune into that nonsense.
In fact, many of those people tune in because she has become a rabid anti-Semite. Because to them, when they see a rabid anti-Semite spouting conspiracy theories, they think there's someone who is challenging the narrative, and therefore there's someone I have to listen to. That's the psychology.
These people I know for a fact have no racist, anti-Semitic bones in their body. These are good people.
No, but that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that someone who is willing to speak truth to power, quote unquote, power being the 0.2% of the population that is Jewish, that controls everything. It's real easy. You have a problem. These are the people that are probably controlling it. So it's not about me being racist. It's about her being willing to put her life on the line to point these things out. She's someone I better listen to.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. You're saying that she's making it seem as if she's breaking the mold. She's willing to knock down any kind of door. I was actually impressed with both Tim Pool and Patrick Bet David because they both came out.
Tim Pool was spot on. Tim Pool
came out, and
I got to say, my Tim Pool thing, he got raised a notch in my book for being intellectually honest. Yep. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with him on anything he says, but he had a moment where he was absolutely intellectually honest.
And he called them out. The Candaces, the Tuckers. He's like, this is all insane nonsense.
Tim Pool's basic point was everything was going amazing. And I'm paraphrasing what he said. And he said, I was texting Charlie Kirk about, being at the TPUSA event. And then a week later, he was murdered. And then all of a sudden, 2 months later, we have this. We have this Israel stuff. We have the assassination stuff. The conspiracies, all these different things going on. And Tim Pool is like being really honest, and shows you why he's got so many listeners, is because he's an honest broker. It doesn't mean I have to agree with him on everything.
Which is where Megyn Kelly is going wrong. Because if you're just testing which way the winds are blowing, and you're going to go with whatever narrative du jour, whatever the narrative of the day is, that's where you're going to be. Nobody's going to rely on you because you're not consistent. You don't have. I mean, the one thing that we have going for us here is we're consistent. You know where we stand. We call balls and strikes the way we see them, no matter whose side it is. I can't stand. I'll make a confession. I can't stand listening to Noah Tishby just as much as I can stand listening to Megyn Kelly. And it's not for the content of what they say, although I disagree with Megyn Kelly way more than Noah Tishby. But they both talk to you as if you're an infant. And nobody wants that. I'm like, it just hurts my ears. So, we call it as we see it.
Bring up a guy so people don't think you're a misogynist.
Yeah, and we'll throw
Dave Smith.
That guy I can't stand.
It's interesting because if you think about I got to talk about the Charlie Kirk conspiracy stuff, right? Because this is a guy before his death. Charlie Kirk literally said, it's on video. You don't have to tell Judah it didn't happen. I'm quoting it directly. Okay. Quote, there is a corner of the internet of people that want to point and blame the Jews for all of their problems, right? That was Charlie Kirk's actual line. So we see this as a consistent thing. He was specifically talking about Fuentes and the Groypers, but he was talking about an entire swath of the population who they can't take responsibility for the problems that they have, and so they lay it at the feet of the Jews. This is a consistent thing. It's been happening for thousands of years. And if you look at any major geopolitical conflict, and I think this counts, right? Because it's a polarized country with a national tragedy that we just went through in Charlie Kirk's death, you will see a conspiracy theory manufactured like clockwork by bad actors who want to sow confusion, right? They want chaos. They want division. And they do that. Why? Not to persuade you. And this is the point. It's to make you distrust everything else except for the person feeding you the conspiracy. Because once you believe in nothing, then they can convince you to believe in anything. And this is what we're seeing consistently happen with the people who are the wild conspiracy theorists like the Candace Owens and the people just asking questions like today the Megyn Kellys and the Tucker Carlsons. That's the sick genius of it. Is if
Well
they
said.
present evidence, then you can say the evidence is fake. If they show you the expert, you can say the expert is bought. If they cite an institution, you can say the institution is corrupt. There's always a way out. And that's how they get you. You can now question everything, including every fact thrown your way.
No, listen, I think that's extremely 100% true. And it's actually how I wanted to start the show, because I saw Bill O'Reilly, who I absolutely love. I adore Bill O'Reilly. I think
He's
is
hard
probably
to
one of
listen to as well.
I love Bill O'Reilly. I have no problems listening to Bill O'Reilly, but he was on Piers Morgan, and he's actually a pretty nice guy too. And at least he was to me. And he was on Piers Morgan talking about the Fuenteses and all this stuff. And it goes back to the Queen song: "Is this real life or is this just fantasy?" And Bill O'Reilly thinks it's fantasy, thinks the online world is fantasy that's not spilling over into reality. And this is, I'll disagree with Bill O'Reilly on this one. I think he's a little out of touch. He openly admits that he's a Luddite and that he is his own words. I do believe this is spilling out into the real world.
At some point, they had done a study where they said the amount of people that shout these crazy things on Twitter is like the smallest minuscule percentage of the population. But because everybody else, all the normal people have jobs, have lives, have families, have friends, so they're not perpetually online, that means the only voices you hear consistently are this lunatic fringe. And people mistake online for real life all the time because they're seeing this is, by the way, this is how you got everybody suddenly cheering on rapists and murderers and the Palestinians, because all you need is enough people on Twitter and or on X and on Facebook and on Instagram and on TikTok just continuing to shout on behalf of the bad actors while everybody else remains silent. And then all you see in your feed, and the numbers are astronomical of how many hours people are staring at feeds, all you see are one side of the equation over and over again. And you assume this is the only answer. And then it spills over into real life because you begin to believe it. It's like being brainwashed. It's like Chinese water torture. So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely, it spills over into real life.
Yeah, and I think he at a certain point was correct. At a certain point about 25 years ago or 20 years ago, man, and I'm sorry that you dislike Bill O'Reilly's voice, but at least he was having an honest discussion about this, and at least he was, it's something he's not fully aware of. But you know what? I got to be honest. I miss Bill O'Reilly. I think America misses the days of Bill O'Reilly where you had this honest broker called balls and strikes like most people I've never seen. He was not a shill for anybody. And he still has a podcast. He still does very well. And good on him for still calling balls and strikes. But yes, these people do, I believe, present a clear and present danger to our republic.
I appreciate anyone who's honest, and that's why I do tune into Bill O'Reilly once in a while. I like his takes. I do like the honesty, the intellectual honesty, and he's not, as he calls it, one of those people that runs into a room, throws a grenade, and then runs away, which is what Tucker's doing, which is what Candace is doing, which is what all these other clickbaiters are doing, and even Megyn Kelly. She's so all over the place that you can't even put her into one category, which makes her even worse than all of them.
She's just a moral windsock. She'll just flip around whichever way the wind blows.
Yeah. J.D. Vance talked about the housing crisis, and Trump has proposed a 50-year mortgage. Now, there's a couple of things to all of this. One is the 50-year mortgage. Again, the genius economists are coming out and they're like, do you know how much in interest you're going to pay over 50 years? That is not the point. The point is if you have a 50-year mortgage, it becomes more affordable to get a house today, which is what a lot of young people are having issues with. They could always refinance to a 30-year or 20-year or 15-year mortgage later on down the line when they're
getting them in.
You get them in. So all of these economists that are out there, the genius is saying that's going to be so much in interest. It's a
Laura
gift to the
Ingraham
bank.
included.
Yeah. I have something to say. Shut up. You guys don't know what you're talking about. So number one, it's a great idea if that gets more young people to become homeowners. Number two, we have, according to J.D. Vance, 30 million illegals here living in homes. If we could get them out, then you have 30 million homes that open up. That would help the housing crisis as well. Both of those counts, I think, are great points, and we should, moving forward on both of them.
I agree with you 100% on the first. I would love to see the data on the second because I really would love to see. I agree that we have 25 million or 30 million illegal immigrants in this country, especially the ones that came under Biden. But again, as we discussed with the housing crisis yesterday, we have a housing crisis in our country because we have how many big cities that people do not want to live in. Okay, I'll never forget. I think I've brought this up. It was one of the 7-Up guys, a friend of his, and I drove him home. He decided to buy a house in the Bronx. And he bought it on thinking that it was going to be gentrified, go on. Okay. So he's like, hey, Judah, can you do me a favor? Can you give me a ride home? So I was like, yeah, sure. I'll drive you home. Hey, funny guy. Why would I not? And he was a friend. I remember I drove him home and we get into his area and I'm like, holy crap. And we pull up to his house and I'm like, out. Get out of the car. And so how many cities in America have been lost that have tons of homes that people will not move into? So this is a narrative that most people are not talking about, from Baltimore to Detroit to Oakland, horrifically. I don't know if you saw this story go on, but there's it was Last Chance U, that docu on Netflix.
Coach.
The coach from the college team. It's a junior college.
You see this man really sad.
It's a JUCO college, and it's for players that academically can't get into schools, that have a lot of issues. And this guy is an exceptional coach, and it was an exceptional coach. And he's put 20 players in the NFL. Aside from that, he gave so many people that would not have had better lives. And he was gunned down yesterday in Oakland, and he got shot.
Was he killed?
Yeah.
Killed. Yeah.
I saw the headline. I just didn't know anything about this guy. So Oakland.
If you watch the documentary series, so many people, especially after the documentary, had come forward and spoken about how John Beam, this coach, had been instrumental in changing their lives, had really given them hope, had given them a future, all this stuff. So, I mean, it's a crushing story.
You know,
Yeah,
coaches are
absolutely.
like the unsung heroes. I coached a little bit here,
Some of them.
not much, kids basketball, and I've met a huge amount of insanely dedicated people that just want to help kids grow into be the best that they can be. It's amazing. I was so inspired by these guys. So inspired that I can't coach. I don't even come close to how amazing and
You don't even know
dedicated
what a
these guys are.
baseball is.
I
But
don't. I
to
was
your
pretending. I was the assistant coach. I was showing up. I would ask the main coach, hey, what do I tell him? You know,
You know
what's
what?
the
Can I say
drill? What are we
something
doing?
now? There's nothing better than a dad being an assistant coach. You know, people say, how can I help? You know, when a dad shows up and isn't a crazy dad parent screaming, but is actually coaching and trying to help, that's exceptional. Or when a
You know,
mom does that.
I saw that firsthand. We had a couple of different coaches, and one was a screamer at the kids. You know, it was just his
I'm
style.
talking about the people and the fans.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
talking
this
about the
guy
soccer.
was a high school. He's a high school coach. He has tons of kids that they live in his house. Like he has kids coming to him that they don't have money for sneakers or food or whatever. He has kids staying by him, and him and his wife and his kids they're an amazing family. But he was more of a yeller and a screamer type coach. And then the other coach that I worked with was the most encouraging coach. Everything was great. Like just so positive. Even when they lost, he would give them the lessons that they learned. It's a really rewarding experience. So I want to give a shout out to all the coaches out
No,
there.
I think you should, and
Great people.
I think one of the best examples of amazing coaches was Bobby Knight, Golan, who you know, who was maligned. Yes, he had a few issues on the court with throwing chairs, and he might have accidentally choked the player one time. But
Accidentally, sure.
you know, listen, he was a huge Trump supporter, but he was one of the greatest coaches of all time. He also had one of the highest graduation rates of all time of any Division I coach. And this guy, when you listen to people talk about him, he is a mythical type figure. But we also have to give it up for Bruce Pearl, who quit his job at Auburn, a very successful college basketball coach, and because he was sick of the system of the new NIL with players getting paid, but also he wanted to become an advocate, and he's become a staunch Israel advocate. He realized he could not do both jobs at one time, and I got to give it up for him. He, like, you know, you talk about put up or shut up, man. Bruce Pearl decided to sacrifice his, you know, coaching career. You're talking about $8 million to $10 million a year go on. He was getting paid.
Look,
Amazing.
the truth about I know if we're so far away from the original point that was being made, but I read something years ago about Bobby Knight after the movie Whiplash came out, and they were talking about the idea of a coach or a teacher being really hard on students and how it inspires greatness and how also many people will see it as abuse. And so they were doing this comparative thing, and they used Bobby Knight as kind of their example of all of this. And how did they check on this? They went and talked to the people who had been students underneath him, and they all said the same thing. This was a guy who vehemently expected something from them, expected them to deliver. He didn't do participation trophies. He did, you're capable of more. Even if you don't think you are, I know you are, and now prove it. And he did it in a way that was tough love. So it was controversial, but his players, the ones who actually went through it, every single one of them, with an exception here and there, but basically said he was a hero because he cared enough to demand their best when it was easier to let them coast. I think the world needs more of that. So yeah, he
He
threw a
had a
chair and
98% graduation rate for
this is a
4-year
guy
period.
teaching discipline in a world allergic to discipline and responsibility and culpability and all of that. He taught accountability. That's the word I'm looking for. He taught accountability in a culture that often thinks consequences are optional. And I say that, yeah, sure, obviously an outsized figure, obviously controversial, threw a chair, this, that. But ultimately, this is a guy who took a lot of people and made them better men as a result of the way he did it.
Yeah,
So I got to give credit where credit is due.
and Gene Hackman in Hoosiers was loosely that one, the coaching type was
Right.
loosely based on Bobby Knight. But you know, can I say something? We're at that time where I'd written this article many years ago when Trump was running. America does need a father as a president. It doesn't need a friend. And when it comes to coaching, you need a coach, not a friend. People could be friends, but when you have, it doesn't mean you can't be sometimes a little bit of both, but there needs to be, and when you look at a lot of the issues we have going on, it's like parents are their men that both of you are parents to your children. You're not
very, very well
friends.
put.
You're not friends to your children. You do activities with your children, but at the same time, when you get home, it's back to being a parent, and it's being a parent when you're with them. And I congratulate you both for being exceptional parents.
I think
Absolutely.
thank you, first of all, but second of all, look, as a screenwriter, I always think about the archetypes. You think about the ally and you think about the mentor. An ally will tell you you're good enough just as you are and make you feel good about yourself. But a mentor gives you a different gift. It makes you into a version of yourself you didn't even know was possible. And that, to me, is what America needs. That's what the world needs. I think you're absolutely very well put, Judah. Very well put.
Talking about the world, yesterday, bells of Notre Dame Cathedral rang out to mark the 10th anniversary of the worst attack on French soil since World War II. The ISIS Islamist attackers rampaged through cafes, restaurants, and Bataclan concert hall. The attacks killed 132 people and left 400 wounded. It was an evening of horror that has left a lasting mark on the French capital. President Macron spoke at the ceremony and emphasized the strength of the nation. Paris held strong, you held strong, France held strong, the Republic held strong.
This is what Macron was saying?
Yeah, in a crisis, right? In a crisis with our brotherhood, with justice, with truth, with love, we held strong. He did not mention the Muslim population of France, which has grown significantly over time, from approximately 400,000 in 1960 to approximately between 7 and 9 million today. They've stopped reporting since 2016. So he's talking about what the Islamists did in Paris by slaughtering French people that were at a concert and were at cafes and just enjoying an evening out, without mentioning. First of all, he didn't say he didn't mention the Islamists that did it, and he hasn't talked about what they've done since then. Since then, they've pretty much opened up the gates to Islamic import, so they've allowed a ridiculous amount of Muslims to immigrate into their country, not integrate. That's the main thing, is that when it's immigration without integration, it's an invasion, right? So they've been taking over. Within our lifetime, there are going to be more Muslims in France than non-Muslims. Catholicism and Christianity is dropping. Judaism definitely dropped, and the Islam is growing like crazy. But talking about the French, I mean, it's also worth noting that they came out and declared that they recognize the state of Palestine. The same people that, love committing jihad on non-Muslims.
Macron himself, for him to open his mouth about this, even as a 10th anniversary thing, is such hypocrisy, because this is a guy who literally rewarded terrorists for a terror attack. So, of course, he's going to neglect to mention who actually the perpetrators of this were. Instead, he'll just remember the victims and will, look at sobering images and play the violin. But there must be clarity in naming the threat, in naming the perpetrators of this, in declining to say Islam. Okay, or even if you want, let's do the what was the politically correct, the Islamism, as if there's a difference. In not mentioning that, when so many lives have been destroyed by that ideology, it's in France and elsewhere. But right now, let's just use France itself. He's talking about 10th anniversary of an attack that happened on French soil, and he is watching the same people take over his streets, handing them a state as a thank you for a terror attack. It's disgusting, these people. And Macron is a disgusting worm.
Around the exact same time, he had Mahmoud Abbas.
Yeah, of course.
The president of the Palestinian Authority, who's
the PLO.
His 17th year, I think, of his 4-year term. So this guy just refuses to have elections. And one day before Abbas met with Macron, the Palestinian Authority decided to air on their television channel an interview with a Tunisian who was saying that the war against Israel must continue until it will be expelled. It, meaning the Jews, Israel, will be expelled from Palestine. Not a single Israeli will remain in Palestine. This is what the official Palestinian Authority TV station broadcast the day before Macron was meeting with their leader, who he claims is the partner in peace. It's also worth noting that the West is trying to say that Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority should be the ones to take over Gaza after Hamas's surrender and gives up their weapons. But here's what they're teaching their kids today. So the Wa'id magazine for children ages 6 to 15, in which Israelis are repeatedly represented as foreign invaders destined to be destroyed. This is what they're teaching their kids. This is the lies and the incitement that they are teaching their kids. In the end, Palestine fell under the Zionist occupation, which continues to today. The occupation will cease to exist just as that of those before it ceased to exist. All of the invaders were defeated and Palestine will be returned and free to the Arabs. So these are the partners in peace that the West is talking about putting in charge.
I'm going to tell you one thing. It doesn't matter. I mean, I appreciate everything you just said and every stat and fact that you just brought up. It doesn't matter. We know UNRWA was housing hostages. We know UNRWA was complicit with October 7th. It doesn't matter. They will have a part in it afterwards because it doesn't matter. We live in a dishonest world with dishonest people, and I'm being nice when I say dishonest men. So I am really happy you brought every single one of those things up. It doesn't matter because these people stand for nothing.
Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them. It matters to us, and it matters, I think, to people that listen to us.
What he means is it matters to us, of course. What he means is it will not matter in the grand scheme on the world stage. While it matters to us, we will still see these people rewarded. We will still see Israel get their hands slapped.
It's like having Iran in charge of, human rights, right? I mean, like just even the thought of Saudi Arabia or any of these countries being in charge of human rights is like, who did the nomination?
Do you know who was elected through 2025 to 2027 to the Human Rights Council? The United Nations Human Rights Council? It's Qatar.
Yeah, I was going to say Qatar.
And Qatar sitting on the Human Rights Council is a punchline to a joke the UN doesn't realize it's telling, especially for those of you who listened to our show yesterday and heard about the 95% of the population of Qatar is just made up of slave migrants that are literally dying building stadiums where dissidents are disappearing, where everyone's treated like street trash by the, what was it, 13% of the actual citizens or whatever it was. This is the place that is supposed to be actually running things in terms of human rights. This makes the whole thing corrupt, makes the whole thing useless, as if we didn't know already. We don't need to pretend it's legitimate. It's not.
Okay. David pointed out that you could start telling how bad a city is going to get when Starbucks leaves. And you guys both sort of joked about that. Mamdani calls for Starbucks boycott as union strikes. So I want to give David a major shout out and props for actually being.
While we're talking about Dave, let's talk about the swag shop that Dave helped us put up.
Yes, you could dailycheatsheet.com, get swag, follow us on Truth, and we will be wearing some of that swag soon instead of counting crows. Go along, we'll have the Daily Cheat Sheet. You can find us everywhere at thedailycheatsheet.com. That's thedailycheatsheet.com. I want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world, wherever you are. God bless you all.